Haroon is an accomplished lawyer who specializes in fraud and financial crime, and he's also a 2023 Reisman winner for excellence in client service. He founded his firm Tenet in 2016, and he's also a fraud expert for the BBC. He has managed over 100 fraud cases that value and range from £10,000 to £30 million. He feels strongly that a firm can thrive by focusing on people before profits, and firmly buys into Simon Sinek's ethos about leaders eating last. By focusing on people, everyone benefits, the team is happier, and the clients get lawyers who are focused on delivering quality service. As a result, 95% of Tenet's business comes from recommendations, referral, or repeat business. Welcome, Haroon. Thanks for joining us on the Reisman panel. Jessica is the managing attorney of the Childress Firm, a boutique employment firm based in Washington, D.C. She has been the recipient of several honors, including the National Bar Association's 40 Under 40 Best Advocates Award. She has also been recognized as one of the top 100 Black attorneys by the National Black Lawyers, and she's received many more awards and honors, including most recently winning a 2023 Reisman for Diversity and Inclusion. Jessica is also the founder of Jurisprudence LLC, a children's educational content company. Jurisprudence creates children's books and educational content about leadership and law through the eyes of a fictional 11-year-old lawyer, Juris P. Prudence, an African-American girl. She strongly believes that you can't be what you can't see, which is why she aims to increase diversity in the legal profession by showing children diverse images of lawyers in children's books. Jessica also helps companies assess how each of their employers receive and experience respect at work through her firm's introspection tour. Welcome, Jessica, and thanks for joining our panel. Let's kick things off by playing their Reisman videos.
If you're trying to be more client-centered, imagine the client is your mum, your dad, your brother, your best friend. How would you want them to be treated? How would you want to be treated? You're not just a number. You're not about making money out of. You're there because you want to help them. If you focus on that, you will get great client service. I'm Aaron Chauhan. I run the law firm Tenet Compliance and Litigation. We're based in Birmingham in the UK. I've been a Clio customer with the practice since 2016. So we only focus on one thing, and that's fraud, and helping clients understand it. 41% of all crime in the UK is fraud and cybercrime. It can cripple individuals, it can cripple businesses, it can take away all their financial security. It can make them lose confidence in themselves. I've gone into this because it's not solving just a problem, which is a legal problem, it's solving an emotional problem and helping people through that journey. One of the unique things we have going on here at Tenet and helps us with client service is the focus of our lawyers. So we took away chargeable billable hours, chargeable financial targets, presenteeism, and when you take away all those distractions, lawyers give absolute focus on one thing, and that's solving the problem for the client. So we've made it a better place for them to work, to produce a better product for the client. And as a result of that, we've just grown purely on recommendation and referral. 95% of our business is recommendation and referral. If we don't get the client service bit right, I don't believe you deserve to grow. And client service is the reason we've grown. Everything else seems to follow. I get inspiration every time we finish a job and a client won't just shake a hand, they'll give me a hug. It shows how emotional it is for them. But when I look at services that have been provided to us, I can't go any further than Clio. It has allowed us to be innovative, it's allowed us to be flexible, it's allowed us to be accessible. It's just the easiest way for client experience. The feeling you get when you solve a problem in our world of work, in fraud, it's like no other. It's where someone's lost all hope and you've found a light for them and you've given them some safety. There's no better feeling for seeing them smile and be carefree once again.
I strongly believe in the mantra, you can't be what you can't see. When you give a child an example of what's possible in the world, when you just plant that seed that this person did it, I think that changes their entire worldview. My name is Jessica Childress. I'm the managing attorney of the Childress Firm based in Washington, D.C. I've been a Clio customer since 2016. Previously, I was at a large law firm, and the point came in which I wanted to go off on my own because I knew that I wanted to take on a more diverse range of clients, a more diverse range of cases. I also walked into rooms in which I was the only African-American woman attorney. It's very important to me that young girls, especially girls of color, can see themselves as leaders. And so I started my firm to build my own dreams and to build my own legacies. It's important to stand up for people because advocacy is hard. Sometimes it's not about education, it's about empowerment. It's about feeling brave enough. Our world is made of people from all walks of life. We have a diverse tapestry. And so if you only have one perspective represented at a legal table, I don't think that it can be the best. When I was growing up, I loved reading, and reading opened up new worlds for me. So I wrote the jurisprudence book collection because I wanted girls, especially girls of color, to see themselves as leaders. And jurisprudence is exactly that. She's an 11-year-old lawyer, and she takes on cases representing kids. She leads, she dreams, she inspires, and that's what I want jurisprudence books to do. I want them to lead children to whatever dream that they have. Representation matters in books, representation matters in the legal profession, representation matters in the media, because I think it really contributes to our sense of belonging. No matter what your background, no matter where you grow up, you can change the world.
Welcome, and thanks for joining our Reisman panel. Let's kick things off by introducing ourselves. Can you tell us about who you are, your firm, and why client service matters to you?
Sure, I'll kick it off. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you so much for having us this afternoon. Arun, thank you so much for being a co-panelist and a Reisman Award winner. This is just really an honor. My name is Jessica Childress, and I'm the managing attorney of the Childress firm, and we are a boutique employment law firm based in Washington, D.C. I represent both individual employees and also employers in workplace disputes. I also offer anti-harassment training and diversity, equity, and inclusion training to industries across the globe. I'm also a children's book writer. You saw my baby girl, Jurisprudence, and jurisprudence really is my passion project and something that I love so much. But I'll focus on being a lawyer and why client service matters to me in the law. Clients pay a lot of money. I think the average person and the amount of money that they pay for a legal case. Thank you. Thank you so much. So as I was saying, clients, they pay a lot of money to have their deepest problems solved. So when they're coming into your office, when a client gives me a call, they're calling me because they are feeling like they've been aggrieved. They're feeling like an individual client is feeling like they can't go to work anymore because they are facing what they feel to be an intolerable circumstance. They may have had their job taken away, and they're feeling like there's some entitlement that may have been taken away from them. So my job is to provide a level of peace in the delivery of the service that I provide. And I might not be able to provide the answer that they're looking for when a client explains the worst possible situation to me, and I have to come back to them and say, I'm sorry, something terrible has happened to you, but I don't see a legal recourse here. That's very hard. But my job is to do that with a level of calmness, with a level of respect for that client's situation, and a level of integrity. And so for me, that process is extremely important, and we can go into more, I'm sure we'll go into more about that process later on in the discussion, but making sure that every client that calls me and that talks to me that has given me an hour of their time, that I've given an hour of my time or more, I want them to leave like feeling that they have felt respected during the process, and that when they go back and talk about the Childress firm, they say, I had a great experience, I have a solution. I had a great experience and it wasn't the answer that I wanted to take away from the conversation, but I really, really felt respected and I know more. I feel empowered.
Great. Well, hello everyone. Thank you, Jessica. It's a real pleasure to be here. And thank you, everyone here, giving up some of your time and this packed conference. There's so many options to giving up time to come to us. So I'm Aaron Chauhan. I run the law firm Tenet in Birmingham in England. Our focus is on fraud and financial crime. We deal with disputes, investigations, compliance, and regulatory advice around fraud and financial crime. The interesting thing about fraud, certainly in the UK, is it's the most prominent crime right now. It's 40% of all crime, but only 1% of policing resource is dedicated to that type of crime. So people are having to protect themselves, and there's more and more victims. And the thing about fraud is, it's a leveler, it's indiscriminate, it can impact individuals right through to large corporates. And it's really important to remember about fraud in terms of client service. It's transactional. It's not transactional. What's important is every case is very different. Understanding how people react to fraud and how they respond to fraud is really important. That's part of how we develop client service. So I can't see you all out there, but something I do when I'm talking is I'll ask everyone in the room who's got a mobile phone, if you've got a mobile phone, put your hand up. It's okay, take out your mobile phone. I really can't see you, but I'm going to just hope this is working. Unlock your mobile phone. Right? Now, if you're next to somebody, give them your mobile phone. If you're not next to somebody, imagine you're giving them your mobile phone now. Right now, okay, stop. I don't want data breaches and things like that. That moment right there, I ask people what they think. We haven't got time now to go through it, but people panic, people worry. And that's what happens when someone has fraud. When someone's impacted by fraud and they could have lost their pension, their inheritance, a business finances could be crippled and it could lead to redundancy, right there, right then, that's the emotion. And our job is to understand that. So I know Jack talks about in his book about lawyers are in the job of solving problems. Chris Voss yesterday spoke about trust. I'm going to take Jessica's word. Our job is the job of giving people peace of mind. And that's really what's great if you can get great client service. If you do great client service, you'll give people peace of mind, and they'll come back, and they'll recommend you again.
That's great. Can you tell us more about your clients? Who are they? What problems are they solving or facing, and why is serving them so important?
Sure, I'll take this. So my clients, they are individual employees. They're also small businesses. So individual employees come to me when they have lost a job, when they feel as though they've been wrongfully terminated, when they feel as though they're being discriminated, harassed, or retaliated at work. Individual companies come to me when they are looking for an investigator to conduct a workplace investigation about wrongdoing at work. There may be an allegation of discrimination, harassment, or retaliation that they'd like me to investigate and provide a factual finding on whether any misconduct occurred. I also train organizations, so companies that are trying to understand the anti-harassment laws and make sure that their employees understand those laws for compliance purposes or for best practices purposes. Those are also organizations that I help. And so I help companies and individuals in a wide range of employment disputes, but as I mentioned, in each of those disputes or educational pursuits, I want to make sure that everyone leaves with more education. I want everyone feeling empowered about that entire process, no matter what service I'm providing.
And so our clients, as I mentioned, we cover a full spectrum of clients because fraud is indiscriminate. So we have a range of clients. We'll have lots of individuals who've approached us, and we'll have it right through to listed companies. And it's interesting when you deal with those clients. It's really interesting about how you see that really seasoned professionals in a C-suite will allow the emotion of what's happened if someone's been dishonest in their business, how that will affect their decision-making. If you're with an individual, you can see how that can really cripple them, and you'll see that, as I've said before, people have lost monies on their pensions or investments. I remember a really sorry situation where one lady was tricked with cybercrime and transferred about £202,000 to criminals, thinking she was sending it to her law firm to complete on a transaction. And it's sad to say, many months later, she never got over the loss, she couldn't recover the money, and she took her own life. And that's really important to remember, those stories and those journeys when you go through that, because every client's experience is their own lived experience. Every client experience is not determined by what type of organization they are or whether they're an individual or not. And I think it's really important that we just, from our practice, we just focus on trying to give a route for those clients to hear us, to speak, to tell their story, know that we hear them, and then work forward to try and solve their problems.
That's fantastic. What's unique about your firm in terms of how you deliver the client experience?
So when people call the Childress firm, I was very surprised when I started my own practice about some of the nuances to providing services, especially to individuals. I came from a large law firm background, and as an associate, I didn't interface with the client in terms of the intake, in terms of the fee agreements, all of the background work that goes into onboarding a client. And one of the most shocking things to me when I started my own practice was how afraid people were to call an attorney. So a part of the trepidation that they're feeling that anxiety and they're feeling stressed because of their particular workplace situation, but there's also a level of fear that goes into calling an attorney. And I'm thinking, on the other end of the phone, little old me, you're afraid to talk to me. I'm just, I'm a person. And so I was really just shocked by that level of fear. And a client, at that point, a potential client, they said, I'm really nervous right now. I'm really nervous to be speaking with you. And so that realization made me really double click and double down on the importance of making sure that when you're talking to a client, you are humanizing yourself as much as possible, that you really do, take that ESQ off of the end of your name and make sure that the client knows that you're a person, ask about their family, ask how they're doing, make sure that you don't go into the legal analysis as like a calculator, because I do the key enforcement law in employment is the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and there are state analogs to that statute. So when I'm listening to an employment dispute, I'm really thinking about, okay, what are all of the possible causes of action here? And that is what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the key statutes. I'm thinking about all the state statutes. What is there any wrongdoing in your case? Is there any wrongdoing that will present a colorable claim? And in that analysis, it can be very formulaic, and it's very easy to take the empathy out of that analysis. But the most important part of the client experience, I think, is that that person feels like a person and doesn't feel like they are a matter in your billing system. And so making sure that you are humanizing that experience as much as possible, humanizing yourself, I think that is really the competitive edge of the Childress firm. It's letting the client know if something bad has happened, if something bad has happened to you. I realize that, I empathize with that, I understand that. It might not be a violation of law, and that's my job to tell that person that. But it's my job to tell that person that in a way that has empathy, that is patient, that's understanding. It's my job to explain things to clients, because I can rattle off information because I've been practicing for over 10 years. So it's very easy for me to just think that something comes as a matter of course. People just know certain things and should know certain things, but that's not the case. And my job is to be a teacher in the process. I really want, and I'll say this word again, I want everyone coming through my doors, to my virtual doors, because the Childress firm is primarily virtual, but everyone who calls me, I want them to feel like they understand more, that there is not this cloak of mystery around being a lawyer, around the legal process. And so that requires, again, me being very human with the client, there being no air of pretentiousness, because there are lots of stereotypes that go along with being a lawyer. And I want to take that fear away from the client. So, and I think that Chris Voss touched on this yesterday during his speech, so that the client is very transparent with you and can share very important pieces of information that I'll need to do my job if I go further into the engagement after the intake process.
Thanks. Something you've touched on is communication. I'll come to that. I think for great client experience, I always come back to trying to have, I suppose, a frictionless environment. And that strangely starts actually with our people. And it might be odd, but I focus on our people first before I focus on our clients. And let me just unpack that for you. So I thought I was quite a balanced lawyer. I used to work in a big law firm, one of 380 partners, before I set up Tenet in 2016. And I thought I was quite balanced. I had a chip, but I realized I had a chip on both shoulders. I had a chip on the shoulder about KPIs and targets and billable hours, and I had a chip on my shoulder about presenteeism. So I was quite balanced, but probably had some issues. So when I set up the firm, I didn't think I was going to be growing a law firm. But what I did when I needed more resource was I looked at what it is that would make their life better so they could focus on doing a great piece of work product. And the starting point was actually my wife, who's not a lawyer. She said to me, there's mums at the school gates who can't go back into work full time. And this is in 2016. What about one of your former colleagues who's left to have children? Would they want to work part time? So I recruited a lady called Esther. She didn't come to our office once in the first year she worked. And she didn't have any targets. She just got on with the work. And she set the course for our model. And our model was, let's take out the friction of what distracts lawyers doing their job. Are they focused on numbers? Are they focused on their being in an office at a certain time? And remember, this is pre-pandemic. Or could they just focus on their life being as good as it can around work? And so that could be working wherever they need to, around the school run, around the kids. And could they just focus on the work product? And by taking that away, strangely, it seemed to have worked, and we've grown from recommendation referral. So we're a firm of 13 people now. And what I found is we focus on our people, they focus on the product, and the profit comes through the back end. And every year we've grown, and it's been organic, and it's been great. And by allowing them just to focus on the product, what we've got is better communication. And Jessica's articulated it so well about communication. It's really important where you've got emotive subjects as the heart of the business service you offer, that you engage with people. We don't have any fancy communication tools. If a client contacts us on an email, we'll acknowledge it. We'll tell them we're here. We know we've got it. We'll tell them when we'll come back to you. If they text us, we'll text them back. It's very simple. If they want to speak, we'll speak to them. In our world, clients want to be heard. They don't just want you to listen to them. They want to hear you. They want you to hear them. And that's really important. So we focus a lot on communication and making sure that we haven't forgot them. But we also manage their expectations in the bad times. And again, I'm probably springboarding off some of the things Jessica said here. But it's true in our world as well. You really have to know how to give the answers to the tough questions. You have to manage their expectations from the start. And that builds trust. And that builds really important relationships. And that's how we've managed to get a good progress with client experience.
I love how you really listen to your clients, which leads me to my next question. How important is emotional intelligence for the client experience? How do you listen to your clients and make them feel heard?
So it's so important. Clients want to tell their story, and you may be the first person, maybe the only person that they have told their story to that has a professional license. There may be friends who are offering an opinion about what matters or important, but you are the professional that they're coming to that's helping them to resolve this very, very important thing in their case, or in their life, rather. And so it's important to remember that whatever advice that you're giving could change a person's life. And I always remember that when I am delivering client service. I remember the first case that I received that I got as a solo practitioner, and I was so excited about it. I was so excited about that first case. I think I wrote off tons of time just because I was so very excited to have a client. I'm like, oh no, thank you. It's my, I'm so excited for you to be my client. And I mean, I probably would have taken the case for free, but I was just so very grateful for that client. And I always go back to that feeling, and I always want to make sure that I treat every client like that first client. And clients come more easily now because my practice has been in existence for over 7 years now, and so it's easier, right? It's not, I'm not waiting, thankfully, for the phone to ring anymore, but I don't ever want to take for granted that client experience or that client intake. And so to answer your question, Jessica, the how do I deliver emotional intelligence? It's really being grateful for the client coming to my firm, because I live in DC. Someone referred to, a big law firm referred to DC as the lawyer Disneyland in one of their marketing pieces, and I thought that was just the most hilarious thing. But it is. You really can find any lawyer in DC. There's several employment lawyers. So I want that experience for the client to be unique. I want them to understand that they can tell me their story, that I care about their story. It does matter to me. If there's something that they feel that is going wrong in their workplace, if an employer, if they are coming to me because they are dealing with an employment issue and they don't know how to deal with it, I want them to know that I care. I'm a small business owner, and so for my small business clients, it's important that I give them the information that they need to protect their businesses, their babies, just like the Childress firm is my baby. And so I take each case very, very seriously. I don't know about you, but I stay awake thinking about my cases at night. And I think if that were not the case, I would not want to be practicing anymore, because at that point, I'm taking it for granted. And so I never, ever want to take a client for granted, and I want them to always understand that I care very deeply about what happens in their case.
Yeah, so emotional intelligence for me it's pretty simple. There's a great book by Susan David, who's a professor, and she's written about emotional intelligence, and she says the problem with emotional intelligence is the world many times have been telling people not to feel a certain way, but that's not the message you give, she says, and this is what we take into our client experience. Everybody reacts differently and feels differently to a life event. Everyone has a certain feeling. And we encourage clients to feel whatever they feel. But the point of expressing their feelings, at that point, the consistency we try to say is what you do with that feeling and what we do next. That's something we can do consistently to give you peace of mind. So our approach to emotional intelligence is allowing clients to feel whatever they feel and express it and tell their story. And it can be anger, it can be hurt, it can be revenge, it can be a whole range of things. But then we just lay out the options. But I think it's back to the listening thing, Jessica, as well.
That's great. And I'm sure one burning question that the audience likely has is, okay, all this client service stuff is great, but how does that impact the bottom line? Can you explain more about how focusing on the client experience has helped you grow your firm organically through referrals, word of mouth, and advocacy?
Sure. So I think 95% of my intakes of my new clients, they're through word of mouth, through referrals. I do speak and I write, but I do think that as I started tracking the metrics in more detail, word of mouth really is the primary referral source. And I do think it's because clients know that I'm going to be responsive. Clients know that I'm going to try to answer their email within the day, within the hour if I can. That's just something that's just a part of who I am. And so that experience, knowing that they're heard, knowing that I want every client to feel like they're my only client, and I want every client to go back and tell someone about the experience that they had in a positive way. And I think when clients know that you really do care, when they know that they were not a billable hour, they want to pay you for your time. They know that you have really given it all that you have. And I think that they know that I think they feel bad about not paying on time or, skirting a bill. And if they do that, I do think that clients feel bad about leaving a bill on the table that's not paid if they know that you've given your best to the case.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think we've grown pretty much the same, 95% recommendation and referral. There's an old adage that, if you do something badly, someone will tell 9 people. If you do something well, they'll tell maybe 3 or 4 people. We've just focused on just doing the job well. It's you treat every client like your first and like your last. You're only as good as your last case. We make sure we spend time with those who are referring work to us as well. We get a lot of work from the accountancy profession. And we have in mind that it reflects on those referrers, those intermediaries, if we do a bad job. So that's part of the client experience for us. We extend that to our intermediaries. We think, well, if we do something bad for one of their clients, it's going to impact on them, and we don't want to damage a friendship, we don't want to damage a relationship. And I wish I could say it's by design that we focus on client experience, and I knew that would lead to growth. It's, for me, it's a miracle, but it's happened. It works. We've got proof of concept, and we're very similar. 95% recommendation and referral.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't know about our audience members, but I could listen to the two of you talk about this all day, but unfortunately we're out of time. Thank you again, and congratulations on your Reisman Awards.
Thank you so much, Jessica.
Thank you, Jessica, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Arun.
Thank you.